Article 16. Equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. Article 16. Equality of opportunity in matters of public employment consists of 5 clauses, out of which first clause, there shall be equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. Clause 2. No citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth, residence, or any of them, be ineligible for or discriminated against in respect or any employment or office under the state. Clause 3. Nothing in this article shall prevent Parliament from making any law prescribing in regard to a class or classes of employment or appointment to an office under the government of or any local or other authority within a state or union territory, any requirement as to residence within the state or union territory prior to such employment or appointment. Clause 4. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class of citizens which, in the opinion of the state, is not adequately represented in the services under the state. Clause 5. Nothing in this article shall affect the operation of any law which provides that the incumbent of an office in connection with the affairs of any religious or denominational institution or any member of the governing body thereof shall be a person professing a particular religion or belonging to a particular denomination. So now let's begin with the article clause 1. Equality of opportunity. State may lay down qualifications or conditions. Article 16 clause 1 states that there shall be equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. Article 16 clause 1 confers on every citizen a right to equality of economic opportunity and subsequently provides that no citizen shall be discriminated against in this respect on grounds only of religion, race, caste, descent, place of birth, or any of them. Article 16 clause 1 does not confer a right to obtain public employment. It only confers a right to equality of opportunity for being considered for such employment if available. Article 16 does not prevent the state from prescribing the requisite qualifications and the selection procedure for recruitment or appointment. The selective test, however, must not be arbitrary and must have nexus between the qualifications and the object, that is, post or nature of the service. The words matters relating to employment or appointment explains that Article 16 clause 1 is not restricted to the initial matters but applies to matters both prior and subsequent to the employment and form part of the terms and the conditions of the employment. Thus, clause 1 guarantee will cover A. Initial appointments, B. Promotions, C. Termination of employment, and D. Matters relating to salary, periodical increments, leave, gratuity, pension, etc. However, an equality of opportunity is only between equals, that is, between persons who are either seeking the same employment or have obtained the same employment. In other words, equality means equality between members of the same class of employees and not between members of different classes. Coming on towards Article 16 clause 2. No discrimination on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, etc. So Article 16 clause 2 states that no citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth, residence, or any of them be ineligible for or discriminated against in respect of any employment or office under the state. The expression discriminated against in Article 16 Clause 2 bears the same meaning as in Article 15 and signifies differentiation with a bias against a particular class or individual. Therefore, if the differentiation and the bias are based on any of the grounds mentioned in Article 16 Clause 2, the impugned law or the state action becomes ipso facto repugnant to the Constitution. The emphasis in Article 16 Clause 2 is on the word only, and where there is discrimination only on any of the grounds mentioned therein, this clause will come into play. But where discrimination is based partially on the grounds contained in 16 Clause 2 and partially on other consideration, there will be no contravention of this clause. Also, where discrimination is based partially on the grounds other than those mentioned in Clause 2, it would not attract this clause, but the case will have to be weighed and judged in the light of the general principle laid down in the Clause 1 of Article 16. For this we have a case. The name of the case is Gazula Dashratha Rama Rao versus State of Andhra Pradesh, All India Report 1961, Supreme Court 564. In this case, the Supreme Court invalidated the Section 6 Clause 1 of Madras Hereditary Village Offices Act 1895, which required the collector to select person from among the last holders of the offices because it amounted to discrimination on the grounds of descent. The office of the hereditary village Munsif is an office under the state because the appointment is made by the collector, emoluments granted by the state, and the collector has power to remove, suspend or dismiss him. So, now let's come on towards our Article 16 Clause 3, which is the first exception of Article 16. It states that residence. Clause 3 of Article 16 constitutes an exception to Clause 1 and 2 of Article 16. Article 16 Clause 3 provides that Parliament by law may provide residence as a requirement in regard to a class or classes of employment or appointment to an office under the state in a particular state or union territory. Thus, it is Parliament alone which can make such law in relation to state or union territories appointments. However, Parliament cannot do so with regard to the services under the Union, that is, all India services. It may be noted that it is the Parliament and not the legislature of a state who can make any law under Clause 3 of Article 16. Since Clause 3 constitutes an exception to Article 16 Clause 1 and Clause 2, it has to be construed strictly. Therefore, the requirements of residence within the state or union territory must be confined to that state only. We have a case over here. The name of the case is AVS Narasimha Rao versus State of Andhra Pradesh, All India Report 1970, Supreme Court 422. In this case, the petitioners, who were non-domiciled persons appointed to the post reserved for domiciles of Telangana and were by an order relieved from their posts and employed in other region of the state, questioned the validity of the Andhra Pradesh employment requirement as to Residence Act 1957. The Supreme Court held that the Section 3 of the Act, insofar as it related to Telangana and the rules made thereunder, are ultra-vires to the Constitution of India. Moving on towards our second exception under 16 Clause 4, which states reservation for backward classes. Clause 4 of Article 16 expressly permits that the state to make provisions for the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class or citizen which, in the opinion of the state, is not adequately represented in the services under the state. The expression backward class of citizens in Article 16 Clause 4 includes that the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. Article 16 Clause 4 is not an exception to Article 16 Clause 1. Article 16 Clause 4 is an enabling provision. Reservation for a backward class is not a mandate. It has been made to be a prerogative of the state. It confers a discretionary powers on the state of backward classes of citizens not adequately represented in the state either numerically or qualitatively. Clause 4 does not cover the entire field covered by the clauses 1 and clause 2 of Article 16 respectively. Under clause 1, reservations can be made for physically handicapped, army personnel, freedom fighters, etc. Thus, reservation under Article 16 Clause 1 cuts across all classes. Reservations being on consideration other than that of backwardness. Article 16 Clause 4 is available only to the backward class of citizens. It must be remembered that backward class of citizens are not only Hindus but includes Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, etc. State cannot reserve all or even a majority of appointment for backward classes. The term reservation in Article 16 Clause 4 implies a separate quota which is reserved for a special category of persons. It has further been recognized that reservation implies selection of less meritorious person. Thus, grant of relaxation in passing marks to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes candidates in examination would be covered by Article 16 Clause 4. It is also explained that the mere use of the word reservation per se does not have the consequence of the ipso facto applying the entire mechanism underlying the constitutional concept of a protective reservation specially designed for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward class of citizens or for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes to enable them to enter and adequately represent in various fields. Thus, we can say Article 16 Clause 4 implies only if two conditions are satisfied. First, the class of citizens is backward, that is, socially and educationally they are backward. Second, the said class is not adequately represented in the service of the state. Now let's move on towards our third exception under 16 Clause 4A, which is reservation in promotions. We have a very landmark case which is Indira Sawhney case. In this case, the court held that the reservation under Article 16 Clause 4 cannot be made in promotions. The reservation is restricted to initial appointments or direct recruitment. In order to provide reservation in promotion, Parliament passed the Constitution 77th Amendment Act 1995, which added a new clause 4A to Article 16. It provides that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for reservation in matters of promotion to any class or classes of post in the services under the state in favor of the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes, which in the opinion of the state are not adequately represented in the services under the state. Thus, according to Article 16 Clause 4A, reservation in promotion with consequential seniority can be made in favor of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, but reservation in promotion of other backward classes of citizens cannot be made. So, position taken by Supreme Court in Indira Sawhney case still prevails as regard OBCs in respect of promotion. No reservation can be made in promotion post for the OBCs. We have two cases over here. The name of the first case is Union of India versus Veerpal Singh Chauhan, All India Report 1996, Supreme Court 448. In this case, the Supreme Court held that a roster point promotee getting the benefit of accelerated promotion would not get consequential seniority. His seniority would be governed by the panel position. The court applied the catch-up rule in this case. Another case we are having is Ashok Kumar Gupta versus State of Uttar Pradesh, All India Report 1997, Supreme Court 251. In this case, the Supreme Court explained that Article 16 Clause 4A read with Articles 16 Clause 1 and 4 guaranteed a right to promotion to Dalits and tribes as a fundamental right where they had not got adequate representation consistently with the efficiency of administration. Now let's move on towards our fourth exception under Article 16 Clause 4B, which is for backlog vacancies or carry forward rule. The Constitution 81st Amendment Act 2000 added clause 48. So it's basically clause 4B. It's a typing error over here. It's 4B to Article 16, which provides that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from considering any unfilled vacancies of a year which are reserved for being filled by up in that year in accordance with any provision for reservation made under clause 4 or clause 4A as a separate class of vacancies to be filled up in any succeeding year or years, and such class of vacancies shall not be considered together with the vacancies of the year in which they are being filled up for the determining the ceiling of 50% reservation on total number of vacancies of that year. Thus we can say by clause 4B to Article 16 enables the state to carry forward the unfilled reserved vacancies to be filled in any succeeding year so as to remove the backlog, notwithstanding the rule of 50% ceiling. Article 16 clause 4B is applicable to OBCs as well. We have a principle of alternative exchange under this clause 4B. The name of the case is Superintending Engineer Public Health Union Territory Chandigarh versus Kuldeep Singh, All India Report 1995, Supreme Court 1371. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that as per principle of alternative exchange, where no scheduled tribe was there, scheduled caste had to be considered for promotion. It was further held that in such a case, promotion could not be given to a candidate from general category in preference to the eligible scheduled caste candidate. Filling of vacancies belonging to different categories. For this we have another case. The name of the case is R.K. Sabharwal versus State of Punjab, All India Report 1995, Supreme Court 1371. In this case, a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court explained the distinction between the terms post and vacancies with reference to the scope of Article 16 Clause 4. In this case, the court held that the word post meant an appointment, job, office or employment, a position to which a person was appointed, while vacancy meant an unoccupied post or office. The plain meaning of the two expressions, the court said, made it clear that there must be a post in existence to enable the vacancy to occur. The cadre strength was always measured by the number of posts comprising the cadre and therefore right to be considered for the appointment could be claimed in respect of a post in a cadre. As a consequence, the percentage of reservation had to be worked out in the relation to the number of posts which form the cadre strength. The court made it clear that the concept of vacancy had no relevance in operating the percentage of reservation. The court then held that once the total cadre has full representation of the scheduled caste, tribes and backward classes in accordance with the reservation policy, then the vacancies arising thereafter in the cadre were to be filed from amongst the category of persons to whom the respective vacancies belonged. Now let's move on towards our fifth exception, which is under Article 16 Clause 5, which states that offices under a religious or denominational institution. Clause 5 of Article 16 is the fifth exception to the general rule of equality of opportunity contained in Article 16 Clause 1. Clause 2 prohibits discrimination in the matters of employment under the state on the ground of religion. Clause 5, however, provides that the law may prescribe that the incumbent of an office in connection with the affairs of any religious or denominational institution or any member of the governing body thereof shall be a person professing a particular religion or belonging to a particular religion or belonging to a particular denomination. Clause 5 of Article 16 thus permits that an office in connection with the affairs of Hindu religion or Hindu religious denomination can be held only by a Hindu, if it is so provided that in the document relating to it. Likewise, any office under a Muslim institution may be required to be held only by a Muslim. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you and have a nice day.